Good morning. I hope the morning, afternoon, or night, wherever you might be in the world, is absolutely an amazing experience. I know the first time I actually had given a quote quote first look at some of these little quick applications. They're kind of like almost like not really quick and dirty, but I kind of threw them together. Just kind of throw, and then go back and clean up later. Um, I didn't really get to kinda show, how I actually use it, and I thought I might take an opportunity to do that now. As I've worked on the different libraries, that go into the interface, actually have to go in and make some code changes to some of the existing programs, and what makes that nice is it gives me the opportunity to really lens focus on certain aspects of library, interface, application code. Whereas before, there's just so many different variables and so many things going on, I might not notice something. But in this particular one, I want to show the what I was calling the master list utility, and basically, it's just a way of creating for programmers. It just creates a dictionary of just a dictionary. You got the key, and then you've got the data structure. And before I forget, I went ahead and set up so all these programs now, instead of being 32-bit, are now all 64-bit. It won't be too difficult to change that. With the master list, they got way above 4 gigs. Some of the files are massive depending on what's in them because they're text-based. And SQL is okay. I don't mind SQL, but I tried to stray away from that and maybe make that as a last resort because I like text-based because it's easier to read. I can go in and do I can load the thing up in a text editor, and I can actually do a search, so I can do different things with it that I can't necessarily do in SQL outside of the SQL um, interface. Okay, so this particular application again is the master list utility. So let's go ahead and get this thing compiled. It has new. It's actually got new it's got new libraries, like, I broke out the animation library, it's all separate now, you can actually see that's what the little animated cursor is, and there's things I wanna go back in and do with that, it's a placeholder right now, there's some things that work, but I wanna add, animated GIFs at a system level, but then I wanna add animated GIFs at a user-controlled level, and then there's other things I wanna tinker around with as well. But, this is kind of like the interface that I showed the first time. It's really the same code. The code's just converted over to use the new messaging thread as opposed to how it was before. I went ahead and put the title up here. I went ahead and fixed this centering issue, so it should be retroed across all applications. Uh, and I'll have to go in and upgrade any of the other applications for the new libraries. But in this particular instance, you can, if you want, you can flip to different games. And I went ahead and fixed. There was a an issue where it didn't actually it wouldn't the theme, quote, quote, "theme" wouldn't apply to the actual form itself. It applied to the controls within the form. So I went ahead and got that fixed. That's kinda retroed in. But all this really does when I switch the games is it literally changes the folder that we're going to look at. So over here, you can see this is the folder I compiled it in. And then there's a games folder over here. That's really all this does. So if if the if the files that it needs, if the master list that it needs is not in one of these folders, then if that folder doesn't exist, it's not gonna bring up anything. And I think Fallout 3 is the smallest, and I'll show you all this is. So you have a this is really what the file is. It's a very, very basic structure. That's the file name. I did have relative file in here, but I changed that because relative file the problem with a relative file is when you're dealing with game mods that are archived is, let's say you're looking for in this example you're looking for whatever this particular uh, God, I can't even think. It's too early. Oh my god. Anyways, whatever this image actually needs, or what this image is. Um, The problem that existed is that the folder structures in these mod archives are not always data, textures, and then wherever it goes. Oftentimes it's a subfolder in another folder, it's in a FOMod, so it could be anywhere. So to put the relative name in there would replicate a lot of information. So that means that looking for a specific, uh, like relative folder, like let's say character slash face slash, something DDS, brow DDS or something. You just look up brow DDS. So I really changed that, and that's the reason that changed. But that's basically all it is, and all it is the file name. That's the dictionary key, the file name. This is the number of entries that it's these are a number of files, which in the master list, it's just the number of entries. You got the key, number of entries, and then the actual entries themselves. And these are the file names that it belongs to. Okay, pretty simple stuff. But over here you can see there's an index file. The index files are a little bit different. Now the reason I built these index files is to actually load these text files up here. These things are massive. They're massive. Like I think the one for Skyrim right now is a little less than 500 megabytes. They're huge, and the bigger they are, they're going to be massive. So I wanted something I could load in a 32-bit application that was much smaller. So I created these little index files. And just on a side note, the actual libraries themselves has the ability to turn this into this, and there's load routines for this, or there's load routines for this, depending on which one you want to use. Okay, alrighty. So let's go back over here to Skyrim. So let's kick into here. And that's really all this does. Now, it does pick up on themes that are configured for Skyrim or for the game. And if it doesn't find the theme, it's going to stick. It's not really going to change anything. It doesn't really default back. Okay, so it's already loaded the index, which is small. They're not very big. But let's say for an example, I'm playing my game. I'm modding Skyrim, and like to give you a real life example, I'm in a cave, the internal part of a cage. You call it a dungeon. I'm in a cave. And all the textures look really good, but there's this one really nasty looking boulder that looks incredibly low res, right? So I put in more console, so I select that, click on the object, which gives me the NIF reference, and then I can look up that NIF, or I can look up that texture file, that DDS. I can do either or. So once I do that in the game, I know what I'm looking for. So, and I don't remember the name of it right off, but let's just say it was boulder something. So what I can do is I can go in here and I can type in, boulder, and what it's going to do is it's going to search that master list for that key of boulder. And if I'm not mistaken, you can do wildcard searches. And when it's done, it'll throw up every occurrence at this. These are the actual files right here. When you see this, let me see where we're at here. If you see this, then that's the actual file name itself. That will be the key in that file. That's the file name. And then these are all of the files in that master list that has this file in it. So now the actual master list itself is not complete. I've got to go in, and there's another program I've got in the queue because I need to bring everything up to speed. So there's another program I need to work on that will basically go back and it'll jump in the Wayback Machine, and it will go back to those files and say, is this archive accounted for? And if it's not, then it will go ahead and process that and put that into the master list. Therefore, every single file is accounted for. You can actually have duplicate keys. Just as a side note, you can have duplicate keys in there. So in other words, like let's say you've got a friend who also has a bunch of files, who created, let's say, this type of master list, this type of list, from his archive files, his zip files or mod files, whatever you want to call them, mod archives. And you can just take that list and just append it. Just use the text editor, and you can just copy and paste it at the end of whatever yours is. And when you index it, it doesn't matter if there's duplicate indexes. It only takes the last one, or the duplicate keys. It only takes the last one. And yeah, and that's pretty much how that works. So you can just keep stacking it and stacking it and stacking it until you get this really, really massive database. Okay. So, anyways, but that being said, so what it was, I looked it up and I'm like, okay, so now I need to take a look and see exactly uh, what they look like. So, what I can do is I can then go in and I can open the archive. Now, the thing about opening the archive, thing about this is I'm using 7-zip. I have 7-zip installed. In this application, I have it configured so that when you go to that menu, the menu is in the text file. So when you go to that menu, it will then call a um, it will call a framework level opcode, which you just pass it the name of the archive file because that's what these are. It knows the name of the archive file when it built this list. It passes that to the opcode, then the opcode just simply opens it up based on how you tell it. So it's configured to use 7Z. Here it is. So I can actually bring this up anytime and I can take a look at it. I've got a different DDS viewer here, but I can kind of take a look and see exactly what all this stuff looks like. I can pick the interface here. Let's see, got cube maps. Let's do something a little more, makes a little more sense. That's a little fish. But yeah, that's how I can kind of look at it and see. This is probably a really, really big example of it's a wow, that's informative. It's just a blank square. Oh my God. That's hilarious. Okay. Yeah, look at that one. Well, I think I picked probably the worst one to try. But that's kind of like, what it's designed for. It's designed to be able to kinda look at things and say, "Okay, I've got this in my program. I've got this thing in my program. What files have it?" So, in my example, I had a cave texture, and I'm like, "Okay, where can I find this particular cave texture?" This will tell me. Um So it doesn't necessarily have to be in game because it accesses a massive, massive list. And like I say, this database can actually be rebuilt into an SQL database, which would probably be much faster. But you also have to maintain it more. And if it gets corrupted, it can be kind of a mess. But anywho, all that stuff aside, that's how I was able to locate the texture that I wanted. I can actually filter through and see what it is I'm looking for. Now, on another note, let's see if I can find. Let's see. Let's try something else. So let's go back in and do another search here. Yeah, I went ahead and redid these animations and stuff. And basically the animations I had before were based on um, like a it's almost like a timer that runs and it kicks this event every so often. This particular animation system runs off of time segments. So you tell it you want 30 frames a second. And now these are actually not really set up for anything. That's why one goes really fast, one goes really slow. But in a sense, in the new one, you can say, well, I want 30 frames a second or 2 frames a second. And it will measure the time difference between the last time a frame was shown and the current time a frame was shown. It was pretty simple code, uh but anyways, it measures the time frame and, if the time frame is greater than what it should be, it automatically shows the frame, and there's a catch-up mode, but that causes the animation to speed up or slow down. I didn't really like that, but you can enable that with a switch. Okay, so let's see if we can open one of these and see what we've got. Let's try this one. I have no idea, so let's go ahead and open this archive. Oh, and on a really nice side note here, this uses, uh in these applications, there is what's called an unmanaged any. In that unmanaged any is where it has a tag called backups. And what you do is you put a list of repository locations for these files. So in a sense, in my setup here, I've got local and then I've got on a NAS box. So it'll look and it takes it in priority order. It takes it in the order that it's listed in. So if you want to look locally, you'd put the local address first, or and then you would put whatever other folder names after that. And as an example, like let's say you have Vortex, you got Mod Organizer 2, or you've got your own little database going, your own little folder of files you copied off somewhere. You can put all those in there and it will actually look in that order 1, 2, 3, right on down the list. It'll look in that order for those files. And when it finds one, then it brings up this right here. So that's how that would work. Let's see. Let's take a look here. I don't want textures, and I bet you $10 they're all going to be textures. Okay, so let's see here. Yeah, textures, weapons pack, maybe. All right, let's check this one out. Meshes. Let's take a look at this. Let's look at his weapons. Ebony. All right, let's see if we can bring this up. Okay, so hopefully we got this. So, of course, the textures are not gonna be in there because I don't have this mod installed and this goes locally. So, what you can do is, one of the things I like to do is when I'm looking in an archive, I literally just click on something, yeah, and it wouldn't be too difficult to actually extract this information to a temporary folder and then load the NIF from that temporary folder where it can actually get all of the textures and everything that it needs if that's, that's what a person wants to see. But this is how I actually use that. And I can see what something looks like. That's what the mesh looks like. Of course, you can't really see the textures, but what I could do if I really wanted to, I could go over here, and it is a little bit, it can kind of be a little bit convoluted, I think, but it does work. Let's see. Don't worry, I got it here. You can go in the textures here. We have insanity stuff, weapons, add ebony. We can just take a look and see what it looks like. You can kind of it doesn't really wrap it around a 3D model. That's the DirectX. I mean, that's the DirectX kind of DDS file. But, you can kinda see what it looks like. It looks pretty cool, actually. But that's one of the things I can use it for. And that way, because I've got NIF Scope installed and NIF Scope is set up so that it will open NIF files, that way it doesn't matter if I click on them in an archive or wherever, it's always gonna fire off NIF Scope. And you can flip, and like I said, all this does is change the game names. So you can flip right on over to another game and you can look up, let's look up, let's see here. So you can look up guns. You can do the same thing here, and I'm pretty sure NIF Scope is going to work with this as well. Let's open archive. Let's see what we got. We got data, meshes. Let's see what some of this stuff looks like. I have no idea what that is. Okay. Well, I have no idea. That's a gear of some kind. Maybe it's a vault door. I never really looked at it to see what it was. I just clicked on it. But that way you can flip back and forth between games at a click. And I just brought this up with a Q, just control Q. That's just how I got it mapped. I'll show you that real quick. Each one of everything comes with its own key map. Um, let's see right here. So you've got a key mapping file, which is your main key map. All right, where are we? Let's see. Probably didn't include it in this one. Oh, there it is. Okay, here we go. So this is the main key map. And I just kind of copy and paste this from whatever there's a new app I'm developing, I just kind of throw it in there. And that means that this is the standard key map. So if every application has a standard key map, then what works in one will work in another. However, in some instances, you may not need that particular key map. You may not need it. So in that case, what I did was I put a application specific. So you have to look for the application any. And at the bottom, you can actually see key maps. So down here, it says key maps. So this is where the override goes. And basically, it's just a dictionary with a key map and whatever the current key, new key, if you really want to look at it that way. And that's really what it is. So it overwrites that. So if there's a control Q in the like a lot of times control Q would be quit. So if you have control Q in the main and in, let's say, the main key mapping file, if it hits control Q here like this, then it's going to remap that to be where it brings up this right here. It's going to bring this up. So see, if I was here and here, I could just do like a control Q, and there it is. And that way you can flip back and forth and find different things. It makes it much easier. The only thing it's missing, like, is the database. It's really easy to build. I actually have a command line program that does this for you. I'm gonna revisit that because that's the one I need to kinda do a little bit of tweaking on so that it can look at files that don't already exist without, in other words, you don't wanna re-extract the files for the same archive if they exist. And I don't believe that it really checks the size of the file. So you're gonna have you could have a problem where the exact mod file name didn't change, but the contents did. And it may not pick that up, but that's okay because, yeah, that'll be fine. That's too fine grained for what I'm trying to do. But with this, it'll basically pick up any of the old files that were not already in the database, but then it won't necessarily pick up the same ones again. And that should speed up processing because there's, like I said, there's a lot of files. But this is that application. Again, I'm getting ready to uh, upload this. I got a few more. I'm trying to think. I've got a few more changes I want to make. And then I've got to upload the new package versions from where I fixed some bugs in the actual libraries themselves. And with the faux mod, I added a few things. So if you go back to the index, which I don't want to talk about in this particular video because this is about this app, but I did make some changes, and I'll upload all that and link all that here in a little bit. I've got a couple more things I need to get through, and then I'll link that up for everybody to kind of play with. Alrighty. So I hope everybody has a great morning, evening, afternoon, wherever thou might beeth in the world. Everybody have a good one.